The reason my business was sucking the life out of me for years is because I was hiring the wrong roles in the wrong order. And in today's video, I'm going to show you the hiring matrix so you can see in which sequence of roles you should hire and in what order based on what phase or what success system you're actually working on in your business right now. In the last video, I showed you the growth matrix and the 3 success systems that transformed my business. And today, I'm going to show you the hiring matrix. I'll show you what roles to hire and in what order, depending on what phase you are in your business. When I started scaling my digital agency, I made a $90,000 mistake that almost bankrupted my entire business. I thought I needed to hire a salesperson, so I hired a rockstar with a hefty base salary, but that wasn't my problem. It was marketing. I didn't have leads. So he didn't have leads to sell. So he sat around for 6 months while he was just sucking up his salary and I was just bleeding money. 6 months later, I had to let him go and I was back at square one. I guess I kind of stayed at square one the entire time. But either way, I was back at square one. And that taught me a really painful lesson that is not necessarily about who you hire, but when you hire that role. There's a specific sequence that worked for me. And once I learned it and implemented it, it saved me hundreds of thousands of dollars in salaries. And it gave me the freedom that I first got into business for in the first place. I don't know if you could relate to that, but it's like, I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to have more money and more. I could do whatever I want, whenever I want, because I'm going to be the boss. And then reality sets in, right? And you're like, oh, wow, I have less time and I have less money. And this is tough. This is hard. Most of my friends that are entrepreneurs have dealt with the same thing too. So let's jump into it. I'm going to show you the hiring matrix that took me 15 years to develop. So here's who I hired and the roles that I was still responsible for as the business owner based on which success system you're focusing on right now. Now, remember, the first success system is the new customer. Here, let me just show you right here. So we got there we go. We got the 3 focuses, right? The new customer acquisition system, the new client onboarding system, and the operations success system. So this system here, the new customer acquisition system, is the first focus. If you have predictable lead flow and predictable revenue, then feel free to move on to number 2. But if not, we'll pull that same Monopoly card. Don't pass go. Do not collect $200. Go back and finish the new customer success system. As I was developing the new customer success system, obviously I had some success and I got some revenue and I hired. Now, the first hire I made after discovering this system was a developer. The reason I hired a developer is because they took all the technical stuff off my plate. And when I was trying to create marketing messages, to put out marketing funnels, to do all these things, there's a lot of tech involved. There's a lot of systems involved. They got to talk to each other. They got to work together. Even though I really, really enjoyed it, because when I first went off to start my own business, my own digital agency, I dealt a lot with Infusionsoft, and I just loved that technology. I loved the software. I loved digging my hands into it and doing the actual work. But I realized my coach helped me realize that I could not scale a business around me. So one thing that I hired was a developer, and they handled all the website stuff, all the marketing funnel stuff, all the Infusionsoft stuff, all the integrations and automations. I was able to basically outline on a whiteboard my vision for something and give them content, and he was just able to just build everything, right? I mean, it was such a time, I didn't realize how bad it really was until I hired him. But the amount of time spent on trying to figure out why something isn't working and going down that rabbit hole, trying to fix it on with tech support, on YouTube, on Google, just searching, trying to find, it was such a time suck. It's like finding a needle in a haystack of why something isn't working. And now I had somebody that just did that. And the next hire that I made right here was a graphic designer. And the graphic designer, obviously in today's world, the way you portray yourself online really determines, the know, like, and trust factor if people are going to want to work with you. So me as a agency, if I had crappy designs that I was doing myself, because I'm not a designer by any means, and they're just mediocre designs, then they're going to think they're going to get mediocre work. So why would they trust me to pay me money to do their marketing if mine look like crap anyway? But what I found with all of my clients, the same thing. How many times I redid websites and did graphic designs for people where they were doing posts, and the compliments that they got, they were like, Jeremy, man, this is crazy, dude. Freaking people were like, this looks amazing. Da, da, da. And the amount of people that came in was like, I went with you over this other company because you looked like you knew what you were doing. Like, so anyway, hiring the graphic designer helped me. That way I didn't have to create designs because number one, I sucked at it. So it took me way longer than it would take a normal person, normal person. What's a normal person? A graphic designer, someone that's a professional that, knows the softwares that they're using inside and out and can just get it done. I could give them a vision and they could run with it. And the next hire I made was a virtual assistant, somebody that took over all the admin stuff that I had to do, like my email management, my calendars and appointments. I even had them categorize my expenses in QuickBooks. I had them project manage my projects, like keeping me on track. Like, hey, you said you're going to get this thing done. Hey, you said you're going to do this. They're on all my meetings. So they took notes so they could craft a follow-up message and send an email to clients on my behalf. Hey, thanks for this. Thanks for the call. We learned this. This is your next steps. This is our next steps. Like just a ton of stuff and I tell you what, those 3 people took 80% of the work off of my plate. Like it freed up 80% of my time. And when I had those first 3 people, that's why it's those 3 people are the foundation of my company, Desk Team 360. Because when you have those 3 people and they take that much off of your plate, all of a sudden I had time to breathe. And I was like, ooh, I want to focus on this now. Like I want to focus on that now. It allowed me to have the time to create the strategy, write the copy, give it to my team. They'd build it. I'd test it and launch, test, and then tweak, test until I got another marketing campaign that would hit, And then the next role that I hired was a lead generator. And one of the previous videos I was talking about the different lead sources that you could do, which ones, cost more versus which ones are free, which ones get you results faster, which ones take longer. And in the middle, doing cold outreach. I had to master that so that when I hired somebody, I was able to teach them what I was doing that was working. So I was just duplicating myself is what I was doing. And that person was able to run and fill my calendar with sales calls. So now I had marketing campaigns that hit. I had a lead generator that was hitting. I was able to still do the strategy, still write copy in between my sales calls. One thing I actually did was block out time on my calendar so that I would have a few hours at a time, because there's nothing. I don't know if you know this. I don't know how true it is. I think it's pretty true. It was on, I forget what it was, but a very reputable site did this study, and it showed that, man, I wish I could remember what it was because now I sound like an idiot. Trust me, I'm not an idiot. It was legit. But it's just, and you probably heard this before too. When you're in deep work mode, and you get distracted, whether it's your phone going ding, or on your computer an email comes through ding, or in my case, one of my kids knocks on the door, like anything that goes, I'm in deep work, and all of a sudden I go, it takes 21 minutes. I think it's 20. I think I might be off. I don't remember stuff as well as I used to since I got this gray hair. But I think it was it takes 21 minutes for the brain to get back into that same mode where you were doing deep focused work. So every little distraction takes me 20 minutes to get back to that place. What a huge waste of time. So I have to eliminate distractions. So when I time block, I block the time off so people can't schedule sales calls in that time frame so that I can do real work and write a good amount of copy. But then the sales calls will be booked around that. And that really helped me focus on the things I needed to focus on as the business owner, as well as allowed me to actually close business and get more revenue and grow and scale. Allowed me to get to the next phase, which is the new client onboarding system. But real quick, let me just cover this section here because it is so important that you are the strategist. I guess what I'm saying here with this part, these are your roles, is I see so many times, and I did it myself. That's why it's easy for me to identify other people when they're doing it. And I talk about this a lot, is people are looking for the silver bullet. If I could just hire this person, they can handle that and I won't have to do it. And then my business is going to be successful. And rarely does that happen. Usually, number one, to hire somebody that would be that person, and when you're in phase one, you can't afford that person anyway. I mean, you're talking $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year. And then some people, they try to partner. They're like, oh, let me find someone that will partner. Well, most people that are really, really good don't want to partner in a startup where the odds of it being successful, because it's not just dependent on them, it's dependent on you and the other people on the team, that they don't want to invest their time and energy in something that's a gamble, right? It's not a gamble for you because it's your business. You believe in it and you're going to make it work no matter what, because you got to feed your family, you know, whatever your motivation is, you're not going to let it go. Like, it will be successful. It's just, how long is it going to take to get to that success, right? So if you want to not take longer, hire in the right order, focus on your roles. You need to be the one that's owning the strategy and coming up with that. You need to be the copywriter. I hear so many people like, I'm not good at copywriting. Well, cool. Nobody is. It's a learned skill. And as a business owner, there's like 3 main things that you have to learn. Number 1, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad author, said that the number 1 thing that you have to know, that you have to be good at in a business, is sales. Because not only do you need to get sales, but you also are selling yourself consistently as the business owner, as the CEO. You're always, I heard this one analogy was like, Jeff Bezos is this was years ago, but he was the CEO. He had all these people doing all these things for him, but 100% was he in the boardroom or the conference room when they were doing big deals with bigger companies, and he had to get good at sales, right? We all do as a business owner. The second one is copywriting. You have to be good at copywriting to be good at marketing. And at this phase of your business, there's nobody that is going to know your business, know your audience, know your product or service better than you. No one's going to be as passionate as you. You're the best person for the job. Nobody else is. I kind of like it like this because I used to try to hire tons of different people over the years. I try to take these shortcuts just like everybody else does. And it cost me a lot of time and a lot of money. But you try to get a copywriter, and guess what? The ones that will actually write words that will convert into money for you, they charge about $20,000 for just a landing page, or $20,000 for just a email sequence, like 3 emails. When you're in phase 1, number 1, you can't afford that. And number 2, the people that you can afford are going to write you words, but those words will not convert into actual dollars because they don't know your audience. They don't know your product. They don't know you. They don't know, enough to actually be successful at it. Very rarely do you hear of somebody that found a copywriter that was able to do that because they were so new, they just happened to be good at it, or they spent a lot of time and you were like their test subject, right? You'll waste more time trying to find that unicorn than just learning it yourself. And it's a skill that's going to help you forever, no matter what business you're in. So learn it. You can read a book, you can take a course. That in sales is so important. And the third one is learning how to delegate. I forgot who said it. Dale Carnegie. He said it, that like one of the biggest things you have to learn is being able to delegate successfully, because you can't build a business by yourself. And if you can't delegate successfully and communicate successfully to team members, your business will never be successful. So I went on a little tangent there, but you need to be the strategist. You need to be the copywriter. You need to be your salesperson. And again, with sales, like so many times people, I know I did it and I talked about it in the past, the video before this one. I tried to hire sales. My background was sales, and I didn't want to do sales. I wanted somebody else to do it and come in and just handle it and do all the follow-up and everything. But it's so important that you learn and not only learn how to close people, but also learn how to overcome the objections and everything in this particular business so that you can teach a salesperson all the things that you learn so they can hit the ground running. How many times I've seen people bring on a salesperson, they give them all their leads, and all of a sudden their sales go down. Their business is about to fail because they just handed over sales to a person that was not trained and didn't know what to do. And their leads were just wasted. And you're able to take the information you learn from these sales calls and implement it into your copywriting. You're learning all the objections. You're learning what is getting people to say yes or what got people to say no. And you're able to implement that in your marketing, where you're now your sales calls are better educated, they're better qualified, they're easier to sell because you're handling these things in the marketing up front before they even get to you. You're also the customer support person, the person that's, meeting with your clients and talking to them and answering their questions and dealing with their issues as they arise. You're also in charge of the product or service. Like, you're taking that feedback from your client, you're making those changes as you go. And you're also the bookkeeper or the accountant, the financer or whatever, right? Those are roles that you need to own as the business owner while you're in phase number 1. Otherwise, you're hiring people to do something that's not going to work out, and it's going to cost you a ton of time, money, and stress, and it's just not worth it. When you go into phase number 2, the new client onboarding success system, this is where obviously number 1 has gone pretty good. So you have money, you got predictable leads, which means you have predictable new customers, which means you have predictable revenue. You have revenue. Now you can invest it, right? So you want to invest it in legal. So for me, I have a tax attorney. So he was able to help me get in touch with somebody to help create some contracts. I don't do contracts anymore, but contracts with employees, clients, and also just making sure that overall I was compliant. He also helped me get my entity set up correctly. I made a mistake when I was setting up my LLC. He was able to correct that, and he was able to kind of guide me and teach me on how to, maximize the law codes so that I could spend less money to the IRS. More money to me meant more employees I could hire, right? Which put more money into the economy. Now, he wasn't an actual employee, but he was a vendor, and that's an important thing to invest in. I think, I forgot who said this, but they said, the most expensive advice they ever got was free advice. So spend a little bit of money with an attorney. They can save you a lot of heartache with the IRS down the road. Now, the actual role that you want to hire in this phase is an account manager or customer support person. Somebody that's going to take the customer facing interactions off of your plate. I mean, how much time would you save if once you sold somebody, you didn't have to talk to them again, right? That's huge. And that's that person's number 1 focus so that they can actually build up that relationship. They're not letting things slip through the cracks like you did, or forgetting to communicate, making them mad because you're pulled in 100 different directions. So it's just normal that you'd forget or miss something. And they're focused on that 100%. That's not going to happen. That saved, once I did that saved me another 80% because 80% of my time was just talking to clients, going over their strategy with them, planning out their next moves, and then updating them. And when things were going well, they wanted to jump on a phone. They wanted to talk to a human, right? So that saved a lot of time. And man, when that was freed up, that was a weight lifted off, being that I didn't have to talk to clients after I sold them. But the same thing, right? In this role, I'm still doing the same thing that I was before, except for the customer facing part, right? I'm still the strategist, still the copywriter, still the salesperson, still in charge of product or service development, and I'm still handling my books. Now, once you have that onboarding system going and it's working smoothly, and you move on to the third success system, operations, this is where you really start bringing on more roles. Number 1, because you have the sales coming in, you have happy clients, you have the systems, the SOPs, the softwares to make everybody's job easier. You have all the infrastructure to bring these people on. And the very first person you want to hire in this scenario is a salesperson. So you have a new customer acquisition system. At this point, you're trying to duplicate it and basically get more leads in to feed that salesperson. For me, I found that, if I had, 5 appointments a week, I could have somebody kind of like part-time, but they're 100% commission. So I'm not like paying a salary or anything, but it was enough to keep them fed. They, have other jobs or whatever as well. And that's not a big deal. But as I was able to get to a place where I had, 4 appointments scheduled, 3 to 5 really, 3 to 5 appointments scheduled, I could hire that person on full time. And when I say full time, they're still a contractor, right? But they don't have to work for anybody else. They don't want to work for anybody else. They don't want to have to sell 3 different products. That's a pain in the butt trying to know all that stuff and switch gears and who you're talking to and whatnot. So they want to work just for you. Now you got sales off your plate. And oh my gosh, now you can actually really start working on the business. At this point, it's a huge milestone, a huge step. And as you're building out systems and everything, your next hire would be like a operations manager, somebody that's like kind of taking over to optimize and make better all your systems and processes, working with the different team members. They take a lot off of your plate. You might want to, at this point, focus on another lead source, like maybe paid ads, because again, that's a quick way. Now you have the revenue, and that will really, really boost your new customer intake and help you scale the business. But you need people to cover the leads that are coming in. So you might hire a few more salespeople, which would lead to the next person, which would be, if you have multiple salespeople, that turns into a full-time job. And it would make sense to hire a experienced sales manager to manage that team for you. And now, and only now, after you have all that set up and all those people on board, would you hire a copywriter? Number one, because you can afford them now. And number two, because you can spend a lot of quality time with them, getting them up to date on who your avatar is, the pains that they're dealing with, what your solution is, how it helps, learning your voice and how you've been talking. And you're not just handing it off to somebody. You actually have the time to work with them so that they don't just mess it up. You don't want them to just mess up everything. You want to be involved with them. You don't want to just hand it off. So once that person is like in the groove and everything, like, great, they're working on their own there. And you can like hire some like bookkeeping service. And that takes that off of your plate to where now your roles are, all you're doing is content creation and you're working with strategic partnerships. Usually, like what I did was I used a lead generator to like start relationships with folks, conversations, and getting people booked on my calendar. Because strategic partnerships, when they already have an audience of people that's your target market and you're not in competition with each other and you can market to each other's lists, both of you are going to grow significantly faster. And now you're scaling at a speed that you've been praying for a very long time. But you have to do it in order. You have to be patient and you have to just roll up your sleeves, do the work. There is no magic bullet. There is no magic person that's going to help you with this. You have to focus on what you need to focus on as the business owner, and you need to hire in this order to take the things off your plate that's going to free up the majority of your time to focus on each one of these systems until they're completed, which, number 3 is never completed, but, for the most part completed to where you're finally now the CEO. So that's the hiring sequence that worked for me through each stage of the growth matrix. And when I followed this sequence, I was able to build a foundation for my business without wasting money on premature hires. In my next video, I'm going to dig deeper into the new customer acquisition system because there's obviously a lot there to unpack. And I'll show you the one marketing focus that saved my business. The exact 30,000 foot view marketing strategy that creates predictable leads without wasting money on tactics that don't work. So if this video helped you, go ahead and click the like button, subscribe, click the bell for notifications to get notified of my next video. And if you know someone that could benefit from this video, stop what you're doing, share it with them right now. And if you are looking to take your business to the next level by building your dream team, then click on the link in the description, how insourcing beats outsourcing 100% of the time. Watch that video and I will see you in the next video.